And the two main things, a good 30% of the book is brand new, was on what differentiates us from AI and that human connection. And AI will replace beginning coaches. You have to go on and really learn how to be fully present and have presence be more important than performance. That, and also that, what is this coaching the who thing? What does it really mean and how we do that?
And welcome back, everyone, to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. This is David Fung of Coachful Coaching. I help leaders get out of their own way. And today I am here with a legend and a pioneer in the coaching profession. Her name is Dr. Marcia Reynolds, who is one of the pioneers of the coaching profession and a former global president of the International Coaching Federation, or ICF. She's rated as one of the top 5 coaches in the world. She's also the author of 5 books, including the best-selling book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem, now out in a 2nd edition. Her work has taken her to organizations across Asia, Europe, Africa, the Americas, and her writing has appeared in publications like The Fast Company, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. So it's my pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Marcia Reynolds.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
Yeah. How's it going today?
Good day. It's a good day. It's not super hot yet here in Arizona, so we enjoy it while it lasts.
So, Marcia, coach the person, not the problem. I didn't know before, when I was learning how to coach properly while I was in the corporate world, that was drilled into my head. Coach the who, coach the person, not the topic, not the problem. And little did I know that perhaps that whole saying that I was taught came from you. Coach the person, not the problem. How's that feel?
Well, actually, since I was part of defining the ICF coaching competencies years back, there was a marker where we said, coach the who, don't coach, just coach the what. But what I found over the years, the coaches and even myself wasn't really trained on what that exactly is. That often when you ask the person, so who are you? They have no idea what you're talking about. Who am I? And they'll give you their role, not a description of themselves. And in the 1st edition of Coach the Person, I explained it to a certain degree, but that was a big topic in the 2nd edition was when can you get into how the person's defining themselves that actually is at the source of the problem that they're facing, that they see themselves as the new person. Why would anyone want to listen to me? Or, I just don't have enough knowledge. I have to have this much knowledge to be seen as an expert, even though they may be an expert already, so that definition of self is often what gets in the way of solving their problem. And so it's a really important piece that keeps it transformational when they start to see what they want to create and how they want to show up. Then coaching them from where they are today to that is a transformational process. Where if I'm just coaching what you're doing, it's just problem solving. So what's not working for you now? What other possibilities you have? What's the SWOT analysis, threats, rewards? And you know what? AI can do that.
Yes. That's a topic I want to dive into in a minute. But before that, I am curious and what you think about this. I'm going to throw a statement out there. It's pretty bold. I don't think enough people spend enough time trying to find meaning in what they do and understand themselves. They get pretty darn good at as a subject matter expert in their jobs, whether it's finance or healthcare and whatnot. But I find even some of the most knowledgeable individuals in the world don't know themselves very well. What their tendencies are, what their strengths are, what their values are. I don't think enough people do that inner work. That's my statement. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
Other than maybe doing it as exercises in a classroom, but then not really taking it out of the classroom. You're right. Even in emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman said the very first thing you must do is develop self-awareness. You got to have self-awareness before you can really have other awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But again, really understanding what that is, as who am I, my character traits, as opposed to what I do. So if I ask you who are you, again, you'll tell me, your title, maybe what you're good at doing, but you won't really say, uh, I'm a really committed person who's passionate about my work. I sometimes, stumble over the mistakes I make in learning, but I always bring myself back up because I'm resilient in order to do that. That's important to have that. But most of the time when I work with people at that level, you know, uh, they don't know how to do that or to claim it out loud.
Yeah. 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 Being willing to say it out loud.
Mhm.
And it I make the statement because I truly believe that the world would be a much better place if more humans started from a better self-awareness, if
Yeah,
this was taught throughout schooling, throughout the school system. They do
right.
some of it in elementary school. I've seen it in my kids' elementary school to some degree, like recognizing your emotions when you're getting angry, especially when they're little. None of that happens at the college level. None of
Yeah,
that happens at the high school levels.
right. Well, and then we revert to focusing just on performance and they
Yeah,
forget all
yeah,
that.
outcomes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's another story. And for the people focused purely on performance, this is very topical.
Hmm.
Well, there's a good chance that all your performance after all these years means absolutely nothing because there's this little AI friend called Claude or ChatGPT that might replace you one day. At least
Hmm.
that is the
Hmm.
fear. That
Yeah.
is the fear, and that is the narrative.
Hmm.
What have you been seeing? Just what have you been seeing and hearing about AI and the whole human coaching profession?
Right. Well, when if you have a problem and there's no real emotions attached to the problem, I just don't really quite know what to do. I have some options or I'm not sure what options are. Then fine, AI can help you see some options, but they're going to support whatever you see. This that confirmation bias that's in AI, which is dangerous because they're confirming teenagers to go kill themselves. It's not a good thing. And so it doesn't go to challenge to say, you're now contradicting. You said this was important to you, but now you're saying this is really, which one is something you really believe as opposed to other people? They would never say that, you know? So even in the exploration of how deep will AI go, coaching will go where AI won't. But in order for me to go there, I have to really establish that human energetic connection where you feel safe with me. You want to work with me, you kind of like me, and so my emotions that I put out actually impact your emotional state because I'm the
Hmm.
coach. So the brain's going to say, okay, socially dominant person, what are they feeling? And that's going to impact me. So when I believe in you, that you can do more than you think, and I care about you. And I'm really curious how you see things so we can explore this together. What happens is you start to trigger the neurological hormones and transmitters that do make you feel, okay, I'll go deep with this person. I'll
Hmm.
explore with them. The resistance diminishes, any hesitation. And the greatest outcome is you feel seen, heard, and valued.
Hmm. Yeah. So, Marcia, this is the argument. I don't know if it's for or against that. Here's the argument I've heard,
Mhm.
and you start to see glimpses of it, right? With like the models that are changing by the day right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
A lot of the LLMs out there, they would pass the basic Turing test now, right? Like what Alan Turing put out there, it would pass the Turing test. It doesn't mean it's actually necessarily conscious. Okay, let's
Mhm.
assume that. It doesn't mean like
Mhm.
ChatGPT is conscious, doesn't mean it
Mhm.
has emotions. We
Mhm.
can argue that it simulates emotions, it simulates empathy,
Mhm.
right? But where everything that you talked about, like that reciprocation
Yeah.
and of emotion,
Mhm.
it might, even if it doesn't actually feel not conscious and it doesn't feel
Mhm.
emotion,
Mhm.
it might pretend to do it very well.
Yes.
And that's the argument I've heard.
Yes. And the energy's not there, you know? So can they pretend and I feel, "Oh, okay, you care about me. I feel comfortable," to a certain degree, but
Yeah.
the space between us, even that energetic connection, is palpable and measurable, and that cannot be replicated by a machine, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They can
It
pretend, but it's still not something that that without even thinking about it, that I'm impacted by that. There's a great book by a good friend of mine, came out this year, Alan Briskin, who wrote the book Space is Not Empty. The space between us is not empty. There's all kinds of interchanges energetically going on in that moment, and that's a part of self-awareness, is what is it that I'm energetically putting out, or am I just faking it like I do?
yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of like feeling this out as I go. I don't have a strong opinion yet.
Mhm,
What I'm tending towards right now on this discussion around AI and this connection is that just the fact that I know this is AI, right? Like imagine you talking to me or I'm talking to you. I'm looking at the screen. Wow,
mhm.
this is a great simulation. But just the fact that I know you're a simulation, I'm just
Yeah,
there's just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Right.
know it's gonna be this thing where like I don't
And
know.
I can manipulate it since I
Yeah,
know that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just I don't feel that connection, and there's
Mhm,
there's probably a lot of science behind that, right? That
mhm.
science of connection,
Yeah. Well,
because what
yeah.
yeah. No, carry
What
on.
What I was describing is what they call co-regulation, and that's been around for a while. That my when I said the socially dominant person in the room or in the relationship, it's my emotions that will impact everyone else. So my emotions actually, you then start to co-regulate to my emotional state. So if I'm angry, you're going to feel that. And you will either be angry as well, or you're going to totally protect yourself and just back off. So you may break the connection because uh you don't want to feel that way, but all of that is going on at an energetic level. And so the all kinds of stuff, the co-regulation, the what we might call intuition, that understanding of what's going on that you're not saying, that I attune to you when I'm totally open in my nervous system, then I can attune to what's going on with you. And so I can hear things you're not really saying, or put things together in a way. So can AI do that? Maybe someday, not in my lifetime. But yeah.
It could probably solve like you see a lot of even before AI was the LLMs were well developed. Like you can log into a lot of virtual doctor things and not answer a few questions. I think it's dangerous too, but it's probably good enough for symptomatic,
Hmm.
presenting problems, right? And helping you with that. Where I'm tending to agree is that connection, that co-regulation you're saying. There's something there, like in order for someone to transform,
Hmm.
actually transform,
Hmm.
that emotional connection needs to exist
It's
with the
critical.
other
Well,
person.
because what we're doing in coaching is what I'm overriding your protective brain. Okay. If you try to solve this problem on your own, your brain, especially if you're trying to look at who I am, your brain says, no, 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 we're fine. We're fine just with, how we're defining it right now. Let's not go there. That's uncomfortable and it's foggy. So we can only, anytime the situation has an emotional attachment, there's only so much we can kind of think through. So I'm taking your thoughts out of your head and putting them out here and saying, look, this is the way you think. And you see it in a different way. But again, in order to do that, there has to be a very deep level of trust between us that I can establish fairly quickly with my emotional state, and really listening into what you're saying so you feel heard, and with no judgment, so you feel safe from judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. To all the people listening out there, yeah, you could solve a lot of problems on your own, but you need help. everyone needs help from a third party that is trained,
Mm-hmm.
who knows
Yes.
what they're doing. But if you want to break through
Mm-hmm.
because you're stuck, you need a third party to
Yeah.
help you with that.
Or what I've heard in Michael Gazzaniga's book on where he examines, do we really have free will with this brain we have? And he said we need external thought disruptors
Hmm.
in order to break the patterns of our thinking. So that's what we are as coaches. We're external thought disruptors. And yeah.
How often in your journey have you helped people explore just deeper meaning in their lives?
Hmm. It's I believe it's also coming up more and more frequently. That loss of not just who I am, but why I'm doing what I do. But there seems to be, we so focus on career, 20s, 30s, into our 40s, and then all of a sudden it's like, uh, who am I? And do I really like doing this? And some people will get angry because it's like I've devoted all these years doing something that I don't even like when I want to go off and
Hmm.
run around the world and take pictures or something, you know.
Hmm.
So I think they call it a midlife crisis. But it's a point where we start to really question, especially when we get to midlife, when we're thinking what I have left in time may be less than what I have lived so far. And so we
Hmm.
start to question what truly is the value of my life and am I enjoying this? And so it comes up a lot. And when people hesitate to move forward in their life, it's often because they've lost a sense of purpose. I'm not sure why I would do that.
Yeah. Yet, how do you, how have you helped people through that? Like who are questioning
Hmm.
exactly that, right? Like purpose.
Yeah.
I'll be very, honest with it, right? I've recently become an entrepreneur by
Hmm.
choice, which is good, right? I disrupted my own life, 23 years in the corporate world.
Hmm.
But one of the things that have been recurring in my own brain right now is I have a lot of freedom
Hmm.
to derive even more meaning in my
Hmm.
life now. So I'm not doing
Yeah.
this out of desperation, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm burnt out or anything. I'm doing it because I realize I have that
Right.
obligation to the second half of my life
Yes.
to ensure that I'm bringing more meaning. In my 20s and 30s and 40s, it was important. I had to raise a family and everything. I get it, right?
That
But
was your
now it's like
purpose or your
that
greatest
that
value.
was that
Yeah.
was my purpose. What was
Right.
it for? It was for that, right?
Yeah.
But now I have a different
Hmm.
level of responsibility and freedom, right? So that's where my question's coming from. And to
Yeah.
everyone else listening to this, and you can relate to that, right? Hopefully, this is going to give you some value.
My doctoral dissertation was on smart, strong women in the workplace and the challenges that we face. And a lot of it was that just defining myself by what I'm good at and not, what a purpose does is gives you an anchor that I can to make decisions on what's next for me. What should I be doing? Well, does it serve my purpose or not? When I don't have that anchor, then I'm wandering all over. So the book that I wrote based on that research is called Wander Woman. That's how high achieving women find contentment and direction. Because they were mostly, they'd leave a job and because they didn't like it anymore, or hit the glass ceiling or whatever it was, but didn't have a clear understanding of what is my purpose? What are my values? What do I want to create? They just go
Hmm.
take another job and it probably ended up being the same thing, which is
Hmm.
what I did till I took the leap and started my own business. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that who am I? We define it too much on what I'm good at doing, and that
Yeah.
can be taken away at some point. Yeah.
I just talked to an individual right before this was literally that they were in a career for many years
Hmm.
and they got laid off, right? It's the season of layoffs, right? We're going through that cycle again.
Hmm.
And very fortunately, they're in a place in their life where money is not the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Very fortunate for them. Now it's a forced rethink. And
Hmm.
they were asking me about, certain companies that I know in the tech world. And I was honest with them. I'm like, just judging where you are in your life and everything you've told me, do you
Hmm.
want to go through that BS?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff happening. I mean, exciting
Yeah.
stuff happening in tech. Is that what you want, and is that what you need in this point in your
Great
life? And
questions. Is that
that,
truly what you want? Yeah.
by the way, it was pretty quick. Actually, they said, no, actually, Dave, not really. I actually want a little more calm in my life right now. And so that answered their question, right? Should I go
Yeah.
after
Right.
Anthropic or, one of those jobs? Like, they answered for themselves because it's
Yeah.
chaos at those companies right now.
Right. Well, the question often comes back to who's telling you to do that. Whenever you hear the word should, but I should, I have all these years of experience, I should, and
I
it's like
should.
the should is not what I want. So that what do you want? The shoulds get in the way, So who's saying should? Is it society? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Or is that what, you really believe that is good for you?
You know, so I've done a lot of reflection in the last few months. One thing I am proud of myself that I've been able to do so far
Mm-hmm.
is the proverbial I rarely do I mention my former employer's name.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely do I mention my previous role title,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can find that on LinkedIn, you can find out all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of like thought of it as burn the boats in some ways,
Good,
like
good.
it going in a good
Better
way.
burn the
It's not,
boats than the bridges, but
yeah, burn the boats. Like, hey, I found a new piece of land that I am going to settle on. Burn the boats. I don't want to go back to where the boats came from, right? But I have all those experiences
mhm,
while on during that journey.
sure.
So, and I'm curious, like you talk a lot about identity,
Yeah.
coaching at the identity level versus behaviors and goals. Like, how do you differentiate between a person's behaviors and a
Mhm.
person's identity?
Again, it's often within context, just to say, "Who are you?" And you start to tell me what you do, and I'll say, "No, no, no, who are you?" It's out of context, and so oftentimes, as the person is telling you their story of how they see the situation they're facing, the challenge, and within that, they're gonna tell you, like, "But the problem is, I wanna ask people to help, but I'm just the new person, and so I don't want to." Or, like, "Everyone else is from another country, and so why would they, I don't think that they see me as important, and I'm only been doing it for a short time." They start to define who they are today,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's so important to get them to clarify, so what is it you'd like it to look like if you were to change or create something new for you? If you were to resolve what you need to, what does it look like? And then to ask, okay, so how are you showing up in that picture? And then we can compare that self definition that they blurted out in the middle of their story to who it is they want to become and looking at what's going to stop you from moving into that space. Let's work through that so you can free yourself up to be that person who you probably are today. And a lot of times, David, when they say, and it happened yesterday, I was doing a demo, when they define the picture of what they want to create, and I say, how are you showing up? These days, David, they're like, just me. I'm just totally me. I'm free to be me. So it's not like I'm this totally confident, and with all this expertise. They just say, I totally show up as myself. We're not even allowing ourselves to do that. So let's take a look at what's keeping you from just being you in these
Hmm.
scenarios. And that's so critical.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it is about social media as well, right? You need
Yeah.
to keep up appearances on social media, right?
Yeah.
I see you kind of roll your eyes on that
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah. Well, and people like remark on this or that, like on the days you look good or the days you don't. It's crazy. Well, and years that I have a book to launch.
Yeah.
I have to be out there all over the place because that's you don't go to bookstores and sign books anymore. You got to be all over social media, and so it really expands your visibility. And when you expand your visibility, lots of times it's great. People appreciate it, and sometimes you're just the target. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
like, you know, your idea of this is so wrong. You're really missing this. And you should call me because I can teach you. It's like, thanks.
If I had a nickel for every time someone reached out on social media now saying, "Hey, I can help you grow your business
Yeah.
10x."
I don't even bother with them.
I know those are so bogus. You look
Right.
at the guy or girl's profile. First of all, they're probably a bot. But second of all, like you look at them, you're like, you've done
Yeah.
what have you done in your life? What have you built in your life?
Right.
Uh,
Well, and have you really read my profile? You know?
yeah,
Honestly, I'm not looking for 10 to 12 more clients. I don't have the capacity for that.
yeah. Just honestly, give me a handful, less than a handful of high value clients. I'm good. Right.
Well, and honestly, at my age, I'm not looking to build. I'm really happy. And this summer, one of my coach colleagues, good friends, for my birthday, my 70th birthday, we went skydiving, and the
Okay.
best part
Safe
of
stuff.
this, yeah, but the best part of it is like, I like heights. It was not a big deal, but I had to sign 9 pages of, if I die, it's not your fault. And so it made me stop and think, okay, so what happens if, the parachute doesn't open? What happens if I die? And David, the greatest things was, wow, I'm so grateful for this life. I'm
Yeah.
really happy. And if that were to happen, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That what this journey has, because it's based on my purpose. I left corporate also not knowing exactly what I was going to do, but I wanted to make a difference for people in a bigger way than I could before. And I wasn't sure how coaching was going to do that, but the more I researched it, I knew that this was significant. And so I really feel that my whole journey has been purpose driven, and that drove the success. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about that I've talked about on a few episodes when you create the conditions,
Mhm.
you create the environment for, like this is your purpose, this is what I want to do. It's almost like it's you're creating an ecosystem, an environment. Like how
Absolutely.
like in this neighborhood, like they've created some stormwater drain, or what do you call those, stormwater collection areas, right? But in the process, like they plant trees and such, it actually attracts other wildlife to it,
Nice.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it attracts other wildlife. It attracts like birds and who knows what other things and
Uh,
other plants. It's kind of doing that. Like when you have
mhm.
this purpose, you show up in the world with it. You're being real about it. You're not forcing it. You're
Uh-huh.
you're creating this ecosystem that's going to attract.
Right. I want some of that.
Yeah, I want some of that too. And I was talking about it with one of my mentors.
Mhm.
I was talking about it with her, and she's like, "Yeah, it's weird. Like what she's found is more she gave, more she helped,
Yeah.
is what she wanted. Is what she
Right.
enjoys.
Huh.
People actually reached out and like,
If
"Hey,
you
I'd like to
build it,
work
they
with
will
you."
come.
It very much is. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you're 20 something years old and you're trying to pay a mortgage or buy your first house, this might not be
It's a
the
different thing. Yeah,
might
yeah.
not be
Well, if
the
you're money driven, that's not necessarily purpose driven. And understanding, yeah, you and I both had years of experience before we left, knowing it was time to go,
Yeah.
but had enough means to create the business. We have to pay our dues. We have to have,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't coach executives without having a resume that says I can.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, no one's going to hire a 25-year-old life coach, right? Who's just getting started. But on that point, that is one of the most concerning things I have heard from some individuals who kind of like they've they come to me asking for some advice too, because I recently took the jump, and they're like,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, what are you trying to do? Like, well, hopefully in the year I get enough business that
Hmm.
it's going to help. I'm like, dude, like don't
Hmm.
do it then. Like
Hmm.
I've been pretty honest with them. Like, don't
Yeah.
do it. You will
Yeah.
not make enough money in 1 year. Like, and if
Hmm.
you do, I'm going to ask you for help, but you need to hunker down for 5 to 10 years, to build a
Most
sustainable
service
business.
service businesses we create, it's at least 5 years. You're absolutely right. But what you just said again comes back to that, that is it money driven, or is it purpose driven? And it will take time. So if it's like I have to make a certain amount of money in a year, well, you're right. and that's the focus, that's going to work against you. But and also to remember that when people come to me, it's like, so what is that difference you want to make? The difference you want to make may be coaching, but it could be other things too, and I don't know any coach that doesn't also provide maybe some training, consulting, things in order to solve the person's problem. So I'm not selling coaching, I'm selling a way of resolving, and helping you to be a better leader or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Coaching is just one modality, right? It's the purpose is the thing, the purpose and the solution
Absolutely.
you bring, right? What form it comes in. It could be like, going to the beach and just relaxing for a week. That'd be an awesome solution. I'm going to offer that as a package. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
Marcia.
No, I have done coaching, where we've gone for walks, because they weren't getting out and doing that enough. And so, the ecosystem you're talking about, with the animals and the trees, let's go for a walk and do some coaching.
That's one of the things during the pandemic, I was able to stay sane more than other folks
Mm,
that I knew. I purposely made more time to be in nature.
mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh, it made a ton of a difference, right?
Mm,
Now, like I know some people were in places where they didn't have that opportunity, right? But don't wait for another pandemic before you realize that you should get your ass out there, pardon my French,
mhm.
into nature, look at trees, listen to the birds. It's not woo woo, it's
Or wherever
you're
you are.
human.
I'm not looking
Yeah.
at trees, I'm looking at cactus, but boy, the desert's gorgeous too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's a different natural beauty on its own, right? And
absolutely.
with its own vegetation,
Yeah.
rattlesnakes,
Yeah, like
to play
coyotes
with.
and javelinas and what we attract may not be something we wanna be around.
My neighborhood has coyotes.
Yeah,
I
they're
was walking on the
everywhere.
trail here. Yeah, and I'm like, "Wow, that's a weird looking dog from a
Yeah.
distance. Why is there no tags?" Oh, crap.
Oh.
And then it ran that way, and then I saw its partner
Yeah,
run
they're
by,
usually at least in pairs,
and I'm like,
usually.
"Do I look
Yeah.
like breakfast?"
Yeah. Fortunately, they don't really bother humans unless you're carrying a bag of food.
Yeah. I guess they go after smaller
Yeah, you
smaller game.
dogs, cats,
Oh,
bunnies.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, well, there's plenty of those here,
yeah,
so that's okay. Plenty of rabbits.
yeah,
Marcia, we went through a lot of stuff today. We meandered a
yeah.
bit in a good way. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to speak of?
No, I think, honestly, when they asked me to write the second edition of Coach the Person, my question was, what do I have to say different? And the two main things, a good 30% of the book is brand new, was on what differentiates us from AI and that human connection. And AI will replace beginning coaches. You have to go on and really learn how to be fully present and have present be more important than performance. That, and also that, what is this coaching the who thing? What does it really mean and how we do that? And then I went through every page, and it's like, because I say it differently now, and made changes. But those are, we talked about those, and I think those are the big things. And
Hmm.
purpose, being, really knowing how to make choices in my life based on purpose instead of money.
Hmm.
And then again, as you said, money will be important. So how can I blend that? Um,
Yeah.
but purpose
Yeah.
and values. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, I'm like, look, and sometimes like you said it right at the beginning when I said, oh yeah, in my 20s and 30s, your purpose might be to support your family, right?
Yeah.
It's more fundamental, and money is going to be that enabler of that, right?
Or just
So
support myself.
support myself, whatever it might be. Geez. But look, it's been a wonderful time speaking with you, Marcia.
Yeah, you too.
I mean, look, I could chat with you for another hour, honestly.
Yeah, me too. That would be fun.
Yeah. But look, thank you very much for stopping by the podcast today. Now, if folks need to look for you to see what you're up to,
Mhm.
what's the best way to find out what Marcia Reynolds
Yeah.
is doing?
Well, certainly I'm on LinkedIn like everyone else, except for the countries that don't allow LinkedIn. I'm off to China in 2 weeks and, there's a lot of restrictions, but LinkedIn, but my website is co-visioning, one word, covisioning.com. And all my stuff is on there and lots of free stuff and resources and, that you can download. And as you said before, give stuff away because it'll come back to you. So there's lots of things on the website.
All right. Well, Dr. Marcia Reynolds, thank you very much for stopping by the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast today. And thank you, everyone who have listened to this point into the podcast. If you like this, hit the love and subscribe button. And we'll see you next time.
Okay.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. I'm David Fung, and my mission is to help leaders grow, lead with impact, and build thriving teams. If you found this valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow leader. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.